even if you're a Ramona or a Brextremist, I think everybody needs to acknowledge that the move from European Union to the UK, it's a huge challenge for the food and drink sector. Laws covering food and drink have been made in the European Union for almost as long as the UK has been in the EU. So there's a vast volume of legislation that needs to be transferred from the EU to the UK. And it's also very complicated legislation as well, for obvious reasons. You know, when we eat and drink a product, we want to make sure that that product is safe and it's not going to harm us. So it's complicated in that sense, but it's also legislation that needs to allow space for diversity in food and drink, and also innovation as well. You only have to walk around Food Matters Live to realise how innovative and exciting the sector is, and the legislation that exists has to be able to allow that. So it makes it very complicated and very voluminous as well. Industry needs to look out for what's known as regulatory divergence. So once the UK is out of the European Union, the UK can set its own laws, set its own rules, set its own regulations. So you might manufacture a product in the UK that conforms to all the UK regulatory standards, but what if the EU standards have stayed the same, or they've gone down in the completely opposite route? Suddenly you have a market here of 300 million of the richest consumers in the world, 30 miles away from the UK, that you can't sell to, or that you have to relabel your product for, or you have to change the product composition for. So that regulatory divergence is going to be a huge issue for the food and drink sector over the coming years, I think. I think there are definitely opportunities for UK food and drink sector after Brexit. I think even the European Union's biggest admirers will admit that occasionally it can be too heavy-handed. Its regulations can be too burdensome. So if you take the example of health claims, literally what you can say about your product on the label right through to TV advertising, it's a hugely complicated, burdensome and expensive process to be able to say what everyone really knows about your product anyway. So if the UK can ease some of those regulations, then it's a great opportunity for British food and drink manufacturers, brands, retailers, etc., to be able to operate in a bit more of a liberal market. I think certainly there'll be greater opportunities for British producers to sell to domestic consumers, but also to sell to obviously developed nations such as the United States, a huge market out there, but also up and coming and developing nations like India, and the giant middle class that's emerging in China. Britain has some brilliant produce, everything from cheddar cheese to Scotch whisky. Not only that, it has the expertise behind it, the marketing, the advertising, the ability to create those brands. So there are great opportunities there for British producers to go out and sell to the rest of the world.